Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone, and welcome to Moral Compass 101. It's my sincere hope that you have had a good week. Mine has been okay, and according to the psalmist, 100 and verses 2, I've served the Lord with gladness, and I have been to his presence with joyful songs. Having said that, I'll do a quick recap of our last week's topic, which was change, where I defined change as an inevitable, fundamental aspect of reality and a transformational force and a law of nature that supports the essence of existence, where the maladaptive defiance to its adaptation and adoption becomes futile or makes your life an aspect of futility. Our today's topic is need for change. Need for change, or why change? Why should you change? And having stated that, I'll kindly implore you to subscribe to Moral Compass 101 for corrective attainment of knowledge. Comment so that we can interact, and like and share to spread this knowledge collectively. So, why change? Noting that change is a law of nature and an inevitable fundamental aspect of reality, plus a transformational necessity that supports the essence of life. Change as a law of nature leaves behind beneficiaries and casualties, respectively. And this statement brings us to the reality that if you don't embrace change, it will leave you as a casualty. But the act of embracing change makes you a beneficiary of change. Hence, if you resist change, change will change you. Passivity is not a safe choice, but rather a choice that allows external forces to dictate your fate. Passivity is a state of inactive. Change, as a law of nature, must take its course on its own terms. This proactively or reactively and possibly catastrophically through forces that are beyond your control, that the occurrence of change taking its course with its own term and its own time will cause a possibility of catastrophe, which is a reactive occurrence to them that don't embrace change. This fact brings us to the two facets of change, namely proactive and reactive change. Proactive and reactive change. Okay, let's deal with proactive change. Just like the name suggests, proactive change is a precedent and a conscious, deliberate purpose driven transformation for present and future anticipatory success and prosperity. That proactive change is a premeditated kind of change. It's deliberate, you know, it's where you decide, through your own pursuit of purpose, to have a transformation that will align with that pursuit. Proactive change helps you to maximally utilize your resources, that's time and money, plus knowledge. Adhere to self-control through unabated self-discipline and self-sacrifice. And circumvent problems, plus optimize your potential during your pursuit of purpose and your long-term personal growth. When you are changing through your own terms, you have the advantage of all these aspects: self-control through self-discipline and self-sacrifice. You can optimize your knowledge, for effective and efficiency. You can optimize your resources like time and money as you so wish. Proactive change also demands 3 extremely imperative necessities, which I call requisites of change, or requisites for change. This includes clarity, commitment, and consistency. These are requisites for change, can also be termed as the 3 C's of change. This is clarity, that's the first C; commitment, the second C; and consistency, the third C. Let's deal with clarity first. Clarity is a decisive self-conviction that emanates from a clear conscience and pure intentions that demands a dire need for lucid understanding and a cognitive consciousness on self-introspection, where an informed decision and substantive actions are ensued. That clarity will bring forth your conscious reasoning, thinking, and all efforts of pensive thoughts towards an informed decision that will later give you substantive actions, or viable actions towards your pursuit of purpose. The second item is commitment. This is the relentless personal dedication that suppresses fear and uncertainty, intriguing resilience through confidence and courage of your conviction. Commitment demands you to dedicate your resources, knowledge, time, and money in full support of a cause that's near and dear to your heart. I always tell people that, commitment is the paramount asset towards any venture. It doesn't matter how passionate you are, if you are not committed, if you are not dedicated to that cause through commitment, all your passion becomes futile. And the third C is consistency. These are unbeatable effort that ensures both growth and sustainability. We are what we repeatedly do. If we are not consistent, but we are led by emotions which are not consistent, we cannot rely on them, hence sporadic, then we are in for a big shock, because we shall automatically fail without consistency. They say practice makes perfect. Excellence is not an act, or excellence is not an act but a habit. And in the words of a very renowned author by the name Tony Robbins, he said that it's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, it's what we do consistently. So we should adapt that mechanism of consistency, where our unabated efforts will yield to growth and sustainability plus perfection. So this brings us to what we call reactive change. Remember, we just dealt with proactive change, and the second sequence of change is reactive change. Reactive change is a circumstantial response that's encapsulated in external unforgiving demand for change. That reactive change is captured within the external forces that will demand or that will pester you to change without, your will. This change, however, is not an intentional driven, but rather a circumstantial obligatory. Just like I said, it's not out of your free will. You find yourself in a position whereby change must now change you, because you did not proactively decide to embrace change. While proactive change is well facilitated by finding and pursuing your purpose, reactive change is a cognitive pitfall that exacerbates identity crisis. During the times of proactive change, or when change decides to change you, it leaves you with a lot of beating and what I'm calling cognitive pitfalls, where you even don't know who you are, where you go through aspects of identity crisis vis-a-vis the proactive change that's facilitated by the knowledge, the finding, and the pursuit of your purpose. Change then does three things in your life. What are the three things that comes out of change? It improves you. That's the first thing. Self-improvement is an enhancement need that's incumbent on developmental change. That self-improvement is an enhancement need that is incumbent on developmental change. Number two, change transits you, or it's a transition aspect. Change as a facilitation agent of reform that's depicted by transitional change from good through better to the very best. That, change will necessitate you to improve for self-improvement, then change will, it's a transition. Change is not static, it's a progress. So it will, uh, the transition will facilitate you to reform from good through better to becoming the very best. And the third thing that change does, it transforms you. This is the revolutionary shift that contrives a discovery of unprecedented authentic self that's akin to your quiddity. Quiddity is the essence nature of your whatness and or who-ness. Let me explain that further. Which, your whatness is what you are, and your who-ness is who you are. And these two are the facets of self-identity, as we have previously tackled in the previous video about self-identity, where we said self-identity is not only a matter of what you are, but it's also a matter of who you are. It's not only a matter of your career and occupation, it's also a matter of your calling. It's also a matter of your purpose for existence. So this point says that change transforms. It's an overhaul transformation. That's why it's referred as a radical shift or a revolutionary shift that contrives, the realization of your authentic self. So these 3 points, the transition, the improvement, the transitional, and the transformational, brings us to the 3 types of change, which is developmental change, transitional change, and transformational change. So, in closing, while it's indisputable that change is an aspect of empirical scientific occurrence, change is also a moral, ethical, and a prospective prosperity purpose that is a measure of your self-actualization and your positive influential impact. That's what I call PII, sorry, but not necessarily your accumulation of material possessions or complacency, and hence a meaningful life of contentment and fulfillment. These statements brings us to the realization that change has a scientific regard in its concept through psychology, because it entails so many psychological effects going through your mind or your brain. It's also an aspect of moral and ethical measures, that demands you to have a clear conscience and a pure intention towards your need for change. So this change, when it is positively done, it creates a positive influential impact in the society that is worth of being emulated, and also a good self-actualization. Self-actualization is how well you utilize your potential in life. And after all is said and done, change gives you a meaningful life of contentment and fulfillment. So it's my humble request that you embrace positive change in your life. If you are in a dire quest or you're in dire need of self-improvement and a meaningful life, of contentment and fulfillment. Until next time, please stay safe. Blessings and shalom.